Hey everybody, and welcome back to the ASUS PCDIY hardware live stream. Hopefully everybody's having a good Friday, wrapping out things on a positive, productive footing. Excited to go ahead and kick off this week's stream. We've got some really great additions to be able to go ahead and talk about for this week. We've got of course, the very upcoming, hotly anticipated release of the ROG Cetra wireless SpeedNOVA base edition TWS unit. So we're going to give a little bit of a stream on this one, although probably we'll have a focus stream next week specifically just on this guy. But we're going to be talking about that. We've got a brand new update for those of you looking for an AM5 based motherboard with a new Tough Gaming B650 based model with the Tough Gaming B650E gaming, which I think is going to be a fantastic choice for those of you that are looking to get into the AM5, but at definitely a lower price point. We've got a cool new addition with a very price aggressive MB166CR, which is our ZenScreen portable series based monitor, two other general series ASUS monitors that we'll touch on, and a cool update to some of the ExpertWiFi product ecosystem. So a number of cool things that we have to touch on for today's stream. Let's see who we have joining us for today. Joining us on the stream and letting us know everything is going good. So we've got Erica joining us. Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us here, letting us know that the audio is checking out. So hopefully you're having a good Friday. Thank you. Let's see who else we've got. We've got Cowboy3769. Show us that new ASUS water block from ASUS. Yeah, that's going to be coming up very shortly, the ROG Ryujin water block edition. So we are going to be coming out with that guy in white and black in the not too distant future. So make sure to keep it tuned here. We've got GPS Stuntman joining us, man. Fantastic for having us here on the stream. Joining us here on the stream. It's been a little bit since I've seen you. We've got Aerox joining us also on the stream. We've got DDA40XX fan Bruce joining us in from Arizona, man. It's snowy in Arizona. Well, I guess it's desert country, right? So, you know, you can have actually the two extremes. Got the one, the only Sneff, the Canadian Grandmaster himself, man. Yes, hopefully going to get that chair in the not too distant future. And to let you guys know, actually, we are going to actually have a couple of updates, and maybe I'll show the updated images here. So if you guys know, we already have of course, the SL400, and we have the ROG Chariot. But we're actually going to have some cool upcoming updates. We already have kind of talked about the Atheon, where we'll have two versions of the Atheon, one which is PVC and one which is fabric. And then we're also going to have a new update to the Chariot, which will be the Chariot X and the Chariot Core. The really cool thing is you're also going to have those now in new colors, with the Chariot Core being offered to you, I think, in 3 colors. So black, gray, and white. So for those of you who've been waiting, and then also the Chariot X will be available in gray. So I do think I have the updated images. So if you guys are interested in maybe checking that out, maybe we'll do a little bit of teaser and show those off. We've got PGPCs also joining us as well. All the boost. I'll talk a little bit about that, but you can expect the water block to probably look for availability sometime in probably mid to late April timeframe. So not too distant future. And Michael, as always, man, thanks for joining us here. Yes, I actually am going to be getting a Carnex here in the not too distant future. I've been waiting on getting the white version just because I got a little bit of this white background going on. So probably going to get that white one in hopefully maybe in a week or so. So maybe next week's stream we'll have that, but we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, so let's get ready to go ahead and kick things off and see what we got going on. So we got some cool news. You know, let's just kind of talk about some cool overclocking news that we had going on in terms of some recent announcements. So let's go ahead and bring some of this up here. So I guess first and foremost, let me know, how many of you in the chat right now, how many of you actually overclock your system? It doesn't matter whether you do it automatically through something like ASUS AIOC, whether you do it manually and you go in and you want to customize everything from per core multiplier, or whether you use a static voltage, or whether you do, you know, tuning to, you know, your VF curve, whatever it might be. Do you do overclocking? Specifically for the CPU, because a lot of people overclock their memory and they don't even realize that it's overclocking. But if you're generally running XMP, you are running overclocked memory. But with that, and of course with the recent launch, of course, of latest generation Intel platforms with Z790 as well as 14th gen series CPUs, and of course with the upcoming release here of the latest generation CPUs from Intel, there's been some really cool stuff going on. So let's take a look here and see what we've got to talk about. So one, as you guys know, a kind of pretty much long-term record holder for the most overclocking records globally for quite some time. That, of course, is not a surprise to probably most people if you know about ASUS, our performance-oriented focus, our ROG product line, especially with our OC-centric based motherboards, whether it's boards like the Extreme, the Hero, the Apex series. They're definitely known for that. So some cool results that we got here is the first world record achieved with the Maximus Z790 Apex Encore. So this is the latest version of the Encore, essentially the second version. The first version of the Apex was the white version, and this is the Apex Encore, where it was the first board to be able to hit essentially that Super Pi at under 3 minutes. So 14,900 KF, you can see right there, just by a hair, right? So 2 minutes and 59 seconds, right? Just edging it out, but really cool to be able to see us get that actual record level of performance. So that's always fantastic to be able to see those type of achievements. Going a little bit even further though, let's go ahead and take a look at a really amazing record that was achieved by Elmore. So let's go ahead and bring this guy up. So of course, ASUS had previously already held the world's highest level overclock ever achieved on both AMD and also on Intel platforms, and then we were the first to help to break that 9 gigahertz, and now we broke it even further here. So 9.1 gigahertz. That's absolutely insane in terms of just that clock. So you can see right there, it's got 9117.75, right, along with 3 other actually records netted under Pi-Fast, Super Pi, and Pi Prime. Overall, just impressive, man. Congrats to the entire team in terms of their design and effort that's been going into the Apex series generation after generation to be able to push the envelope. The Apex is one of my personal favorites, and even though you know, I've done a little bit in the past, sometimes some cascade cooling, a little bit of dry ice, a couple of things like that, I tend to favor, I think, realistic long-term based overclocking, but it's always exciting to be able to just see what the envelope gets pushed at, and in terms of what's going to be possible when it comes to the highest level of performance. And cool to just be able to see these products just pushed to these really stratospheric levels of kind of performance. So overall, pretty cool, pretty interesting, and definitely props to Elmore and the entire team there. So let's go ahead and see some feedback here in terms of who was going to be doing some overclocking. So Tech says yes, he's definitely doing overclocking. All the Boost, he says that he also overclocks as well. We got Cowboy also in the overclocking. Michael gives a little bit more of that balanced approach. He says sometimes depending on what I'm doing. And I agree with that, right? It doesn't necessarily always make sense. Like, one of the cool things I love about when I overclock my graphics card using GPU Tweak 3 is that I can run what's called a conditional profile. So if I'm just browsing the internet or watching a video or checking out my email, I can actually run the card at default clocks because there's no reason to overclock it. But then if I was to jump into Forza or Company Heroes or Hades or whatever game you might be jumping into, you can then have the overclock engaged for that game profile. And you can even conditionally have actually different overclocks for different games. So I'm actually always a big fan of trying to maximize efficiency and sensibility while also kind of considering, you know, thermals and power and things along those lines. So very cool. Su Min, of course, notes also he's in the overclocking game. PGPCs drops in a little bit, says XMP and DOCP for systems. So that's pretty much a DRAM based overclock. So Intel and AMD respectively for systems I personally run. And when doing thermal tests to see the absolute worst, I do AIOC within the BIOS. I would definitely agree. Cowboy also notes overclocks everything. We got another user goes, I overclock the GPUs for the benchmarks. Yep, okay. And last but not least here, we got all the Boost giving us a little bit more insight. So he's got the X570 Dark Hero, fantastic board. Of course, that's where we introduced some really cool technologies for overclocking, right? 5900X with a 4.7 gigahertz all core. And then he also has a Maximus Z690 series board with the 13900 KF. He's got that overclocked 6 gigahertz, 3 cores, and 5.9 for the rest. That's a pretty nice. Yeah, definitely. I generally usually prefer a per core overclock as opposed to an all core overclock, just because usually static overclocks, as far as fixed frequencies across the board, tend to be less efficient and usually leave frequency on the floor. You usually also have to use a static voltage, but I like that mix there. It's cool, man. Thanks for being Team ROG for sure, and for sharing your overclocking results with us. So let's get ready to go ahead and jump into some of the next items right here. We got one other feedback point right here. Mr. Thomas 6, he goes, motherboard or should I get an X670E Hero? So I think I might have missed out on part of your other question. So if you want to go ahead and maybe recap your question, post it there in the chat. I'll go ahead and see if I can follow up with whatever your question might be. It sounds like you're maybe looking for a recommendation on a specific board. If you're looking to build a system, feel free to go and flesh that out a little bit more, and we'll do our best to go ahead and follow up, man. So thank you so much. All right. So that takes care of that. Next up, let's go ahead and quickly see if we have actually any UEFI BIOS updates. I haven't actually had the chance to check today. I've been pretty busy, so I haven't had the chance to check and see if we have new UEFI BIOS releases. So let's go ahead and check that out. And it looks like we do. Very small amount actually for this week compared to the last few weeks where we've had, you know, 60, 70, 80, 100 plus releases. So overall, nothing too much of a note. Looks like we got one Q670, one Q670, one Q470. We actually have an update for the ROG Zenith Extreme Alpha, Z390-E gaming, so that's definitely a throwback, and one B660 base motherboard. So overall, not too much on that side. Again, if you guys always want to check the running kind of week update for all the UEFI releases, make sure to join the PCDIY group. We have a featured post. Lee, who's our community manager, does a featured post announcement, which will include all the motherboards that have seen recent UEFI BIOS releases. So if you want to check that out, just join our PCDIY group and you can check out the featured post announcement, which will break down to you all the latest UEFI BIOS updates. That being noted, I know for some of you guys in the stream that join us fairly regularly, we have now finally released our new formalized UEFI releases for both Intel and AMD based platforms. If you guys remember, I started talking about this a couple of months ago. And again, let me know in the chat, how much memory are you running on your system right now? One of the really big things that was introduced with the advent of DDR5 was essentially being able to support much higher density configurations. It's pretty crazy to know right now within just 2 DIMMs, you can have 16 gigabytes, 24 gigabytes, you can have 32, 48, 64, and even in the not too distant future, 96 gigabytes, even just within 2 DIMMs. So this allows for much higher densities, which just were not possible in the past. And very exciting to see that now both of these series of motherboards from Intel and AMD, whether it's the 600 series, 700 series, and AMD on the AM5 side, so that's going to be pretty much all of the AM5 series boards, have now all been updated to be certified for 256 gigabytes of memory. I mean, 128 gigabytes was already a lot, and this is really going to be for the vast majority of users that are really in the professional space, right? They're doing science and simulation, advanced productivity, professional animation, videography, things along those lines, things that use really large memory workloads. For gaming, really the vast majority of gamers, you know, barely need a little bit, maybe more than about 16 gigs. 16 gigs, even for a lot of users, is entirely fine. 24 is already really kind of starting to get into overkill country, and 32 to 64, which you see a lot within enthusiast builds, is way more than you need for any type of gaming scenario, and it's just having additional memory for more flexibility of running tons of active programs and things along those lines. So being able to go all the way up to such high memory densities, pretty crazy, but pretty cool that we also have that level of functionality that has now been introduced in. So if you guys, of course, do need that support, as always, all you need to do is just head over to the support website for your corresponding model, download the UEFI, and update the UEFI. As always, though, I would recommend that if you're not as knowledgeable when it comes to how rank, density, and speed are ultimately a big factor when it comes to overclocking memory, make sure to check out our DDR5 Insight post in the PCDIY group, or check out our Pyre stream. A lot of people don't understand that as you increase memory rank, so going from like a single rank kit to like a dual rank kit, that can significantly affect your DRAM scaling. So your scaling will generally go down in terms of the speeds that you can run. So while you can go to higher densities, you're always going to essentially have some form of penalty when it comes to the speed that you can run those densities in. So just be mindful of that, is that it's always important to note that you're considering the rank, the density, and the overall population configuration, because that will directly affect your speeds. All right, let's see, for some users here that give us some feedback. We've got another user joining us all the way from Cambodia, man. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, right? All the way from Cambodia. We've got a new user says, glad to see the UEFI update to support 256 gigabytes of memory for my Maximus Z690 Extreme. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Hey, JJPB, Mobile Tech, man. Fantastic to have you here. So William Wiseman goes, hey JJ, do you happen to know what the max RAM speed is for the Z690 Extreme? I got 5200 Mac when DDR5 came out, but I kind of want to bump it up. So actually this, we can give a little bit of a primer again. I would recommend going and checking our DDR5 Insights post that we have in our PCDIY group and our prior live stream. But from a board perspective, the board really is only part of the limiting factor. The IMC is going to actually be a bigger part. So Z690, of course, aligned with the launch for 12th gen. And so really the easiest way to think about it is 12th gen series CPUs on average will generally reach to about a 6000 MT range pretty comfortably. And when I see most or pretty comfortably, that's at least around about a 70 to about maybe almost an 80% range of CPUs. So if you had like 10 CPUs, like 12900Ks, most of those would be able to hit 6000 MT without any issues. 13th gen saw a notable improvement within the memory controller, even being able to go higher. And so you went up from about 6,000 as being the average to about 7,000. And that's pretty true for Z690, even though Z790 had further improvements to the PCB design for even better memory scaling. You can generally feel pretty confident with new UEFIs on a Z690 board like the Extreme that you should be able to usually be able to run somewhere between about 66 to about 7,000. But again, depends on your CPU. If you've got a 12th gen CPU, then I would probably be targeting probably not more than maybe 6,400. And again, even then, that might run, but if you want kind of a higher level of confidence, you said you got 52. 52 is actually already a little bit of an overclock. The official memory spec for 12th gen is actually a maximum of 4,800. Let me see if I have my little Intel port table that I like to bring up. Sometimes people have seen this. Sometimes people get surprised. Let me see right here if I have it. Do I have it here? Let me see if I can bring it up. Yeah, here it goes. Okay, so here's the port table. Let me bring this up here. All right, so this is your port table. So you can actually see that for, like I said, the 12th gen, the max official speed was 4,800. If you actually went to higher density configurations and higher rank, you can see the official speed even went lower, right? But you're already running a bit of an overclock. Of course, timings are a bit of a factor, but you can definitely comfortably go up if you wanted to. So if you're at 52 right now and you wanted to get a little bit of a bump up, I'd probably say good sweet spot in terms of the price is probably 6,000 to 64. If you have a 13th gen or you've upgraded to 14th gen, then you could consider going a bit more, like you said, up to around that 66 to 7,000 plus. For generally 7,000 plus, I do generally recommend a Z790 based motherboard though, just because of the refined memory topology. Although you could potentially achieve it, it's not a guarantee, but it is potentially possible. All right, so that gives you a little bit of feedback there, guys. Let's go ahead and just round out that. Michael notes that he's running 64 gigabytes and 4 DIMMs. Tech is running 48 gigabytes, 2x24. I like that config. That's a really good option because you're also using single rank memory as opposed to dual rank, and single rank memory will be able to scale at higher speeds. Dan notes is have 32 gigabytes, but he's actually looking to get 128. Unless you really need it, the disadvantage there, of course, is to do 128 in 2 DIMMs means you're going to go to definitely a higher rank of memory, so definitely means much lower DRAM scaling. So that's a disadvantage, but if you really need the memory, then of course there's no replacement for that memory. And then PGPCs is rocking 64 gigs, 2x32, so he's running actually a dual rank memory config, but you can still get pretty reasonable speeds, but definitely less than single rank on my gaming systems. And we'll be loading up my editing PC with 128 gigabytes. Wow, that's quite a bit of memory right there. So pretty crazy. All right, let me go ahead and just see any last questions right there. Introvert Alert goes, hey JJ, any news when the ROG Claymore 3 might be coming out? Definitely not. We have no information that I can give you on that side. I can tell you we are working on some next generation keyboards designs that we have. I'm pretty excited. I saw some of the early previews and information that we have for something that we're working on. But definitely for right now, the Claymore, which actually I'm using that one right now, it's charging up, but that's going to be staying in our wheelhouse for the definitely foreseeable future. And we've got a great lineup from the Strict Scope series to the Claymore series to the Falchion to, of course, the Azoth. So tons of other models, but no immediate plans in the foreseeable future for an update to the Claymore. Okay. All right. So just William decided to give a little bit of feedback there. He says, yeah, I have a 12900K. 5200 is the XMP rating. Does the stuff that does run fine on the 12900K? Yeah. So yeah, with the 12900K, like I said, if you make sure and update the UEFI, you could probably comfortably upgrade to, I'd say, 6,000 probably without any issues. You can maybe get a little bit more. And like I said, if you watch the live stream that we have on that, we also give you guidance that like if you bought like a 6400 kit or a 6600 kit and it wasn't stable, we show you how you can tune down and kind of drop down to a slightly lower speed. Still would be an upgrade over what you have so that you can still get even a little bit higher performance, but account for essentially that silicon variance in your CPU not being able to run that higher speed. Okay. All right. So let's go with one more question before we go to the next point right there. David James goes, as I remember when motherboards had a 256 megabyte. That's right, 256 megabyte capacity for memory. Definitely throwing it back right there. But overall, pretty cool to have you guys share that information. So thank you guys so much. So that is a cool update that we just wanted to share, let you guys know that we got that 256 gigabytes. All right, so let's go ahead and see what next we got up here. And I think no other immediate updates. Yeah, we got those records out of the way. We got our UEFI BIOS. So I think we're going to get straight into the product announcements. All right, guys. So let's get ready to go ahead and jump into it. I think the first one that I want to go ahead and talk about is going to be a brand new motherboard. I'm excited about this one because I'm always interested to be able to talk about, I think, boards that tend to be at a little bit lower price point. You know, of course, many of you guys know as I'm an enthusiast at heart. So I love, of course, our flagship series products, whether it's like from the ProArt line, the ROG Strix line, the ROG Maximus, the Crosshair series. Those are all fantastic, but definitely, you know, we have a great lineup of boards with Tough Gaming, which I think hit a great balance when it comes to feature, function, and spec and pricing. And that's what we've got right here for you guys. So let's go ahead and talk about this guy, the brand new Tough Gaming B650-E Wi-Fi, which is going to be coming in at $200. So I think this is going to be a really solid price point for those of you that want to be able to maybe upgrade from an older platform, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. Maybe you're rocking, you know, an older generation, you know, 7th gen, 8th gen, 9th gen Intel or something like that. Maybe you've got AM3, maybe you've got 1st gen, 2nd gen AM4. You may want to make that update to DDR5, higher speed PCI Gen support, higher speed USB, faster Wi-Fi, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at this board and see what we got going on with this model. So this is going to be the Tough Gaming B650-E Wi-Fi. So it's got that really nice, just clean, minimal design that we have with our Tough Gaming products. Nothing to kind of contend or compete really with your build. Just a little bit of the Tough Gaming accent color that's on there, but not a huge amount. Really nice, big, large, robust heat sinks. A nice, solid power delivery design. So it doesn't matter what you're running, whether you want to run an X3D series CPU or you want to do a 7800X, 7900X, 7950X. This board will run any single one of them without any issues. The board also does feature our PBO enhancement technology, which is a great feature that if you actually want to target specific temperatures to optimize the power and performance for the CPU, you can go into the UEFI and you can set actually target temps. So you can pick like 90 degrees, 80 degrees, 70 degrees, and we'll automatically tune everything for you. And one big advantage compared to undervolting is where undervolting can bring down power and sometimes improve performance, but can also introduce instability. So unless you're really knowledgeable about undervolting and you also thoroughly really test your system, you can have it sometimes be stable, and then you could also run into instability because you haven't actually tested enough to check to see if your undervolt is working. So if you want a really nice, easy option that doesn't run into potential instability issues, the PBO enhancement option is a great choice for those that are looking to kind of maximize performance and go into overclocking, but not necessarily have to know everything about it. So in terms of the core spec and features, let's go ahead and take a closer look here at the board. Really solid, of course, in terms of your core items. So DDR5 support, it's got 3 ARGB headers on the board. So of course you can connect your AIOs, your fans, your chassis, your LED strips. For the internal USB-C, this is actually an upgrade. So we went ahead and we flipped the actual connector design. So in the past, we've sometimes put 20 gigabits on the rear. We decided for this model actually do 20 gigabits on the inside on the chassis. So this is actually a 20 gigabits connector. And then we still give you USB-C on this board, but on the rear, we're going to do 10 gigabits. Now that's still great because I want to know what's the fastest device you have. For most users, based on our polling, most users only have a 5 gigabit device. Pretty much every peripheral you have is pretty much going to be USB 2. And then if you have something faster, it's probably going to be maybe like an external SSD, which for most users is only a 5 gigabit USB. So already with 10 gigabits, that's twice as fast. And with 20 gigabits, that's 4 times as fast. So quite nice. You've got your, of course, your legacy USB 3 header that's there, 4 SATA ports. You're going to have 3 M.2 slots that are going to be on here, and this is actually a board that does support PCI Express Gen 5 M.2 based SSDs, so you're good to go. Now this primary slot, we did go ahead and revise that, so compared to like a higher end X670 board, where you might have PCI Express Gen 5 for both the PCI Express slot and the M.2, this one is only going to be PCI Express Gen 4, but keep in mind right now, there's no graphics cards on the market that have PCI Express Gen 4, and even right now, there's no need for it. Even a ultra high-end 7900 XTX or 4090 really only effectively uses about the bandwidth of a PCI Express Gen 4 by 8, not even a by 16 level of PCI throughput. So it's actually more than enough even for ultra future higher-end graphics cards, and you still have that support for the absolute fastest M.2 SSDs if you want to take advantage for the future with things like direct storage. So you have that on there. In terms of your fan headers, you guys know I'm always a big fan of making sure that you got a nice set of fan headers on there. So you got them all sprinkled out right here. There's a total of 4 along with an AIO pump header. So you can see one, we've got another right here, we've got another right here, another right here, and then we pop over to the top, you got your AIO pump and then 2 right there. So nice sprinkling of your headers on the board. Another nice update that I will note here in terms of the overall design that I'm a big fan of is going to be that when you take a look here at the design, this slot is still going to be accessible even if you have a large graphics card. So even if you put a big like 4080 or 4090 on this, you want to min-max your build, it wouldn't take up this M.2 slot. So you would only just have to go ahead and just drop in your M.2 SSD and you'd be good to go. You don't actually have to remove anything to be able to get access to that. So very nice and usable in that respect. In terms of the included accessories, pretty straightforward. You're going to get your SATA cables, your your standoffs and your screws for your M.2 SSD and your Wi-Fi antenna. Now this is another update for this model. It is going to be featuring a Wi-Fi 6E, which is actually an upgrade to the Wi-Fi 6 that we had on our standard B650 model. So that is another update. So you get high-speed Wi-Fi and you're going to get your Bluetooth. One other cool part for that Wi-Fi 6E, if you're not kind of aware in terms of what that really means for speed, Wi-Fi 6 would generally give you up to about 900 megabits, so just a little bit shy of about gigabit Ethernet performance. With Wi-Fi 6E, if you pair that with a Wi-Fi 6E enabled router, in kind of the sweet spot of about 10 to 15 feet, you can actually see upwards of about 1.4 to even almost about 1.5 gigabits. So quite performant in terms of the speed. Rear I/O right here, 2 USB 3 ports, 5 gigs. USB 2, another 5 gig port, another 2 USB 2 ports right here, and then you got your 10 gig ports. So USB-C and you've got a Type A. So a total of 8 ports, USB BOS flashback, you got your DP and your HDMI, 2.5 gig Ethernet, Bluetooth, and your Wi-Fi 6E. So that is going to be the Tough Gaming B650-E Wi-Fi. I think a solid choice if you're looking for a board. Definitely we've got tons of other options, and if you're wondering about what board to pick, definitely check out our full kind of in-depth live stream that we have on the channel, which will dive into actually pretty much all of our AM5 models. So whether it's the Prime series, the ProArt series, the other Tough Gaming models, ROG Strix or ROG Crosshair, we got you covered right there. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat there, but let me know, are you part of Team Tough Gaming? Is that or do you have a Tough Gaming board? Let me go ahead and also just drop this link there for you guys if anybody wants to check that board out. And as you noted right there, that was the price point. Let me go ahead and check right here. I see right here. Wish there was a board with the tough designs and the bells and whistles of a Maximus board. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a Maximus, it wouldn't be a Tough Gaming board, right? Because then that would inherently kind of bring up the cost further. And I guess the bigger thing is what features is it that you really want that are on the Maximus or on the Crosshair series that you don't see on the ROG series, right? The goal really with Tough Gaming is to kind of hit that sweet spot in terms of kind of giving you everything you need and a little bit of extra of what you want, but without maybe going to more specialized functions or features that maybe the broader set of users don't always utilize. So an example is you might get like USB 4 or 10 gigabit like on a higher end ROG board, but that's a much smaller segment of the market that uses that, right? Or even more specialized like lighting designs that we have on the board. Those are aesthetic kind of flourishes that maybe, you know, you don't want to necessarily put that in there versus other spec at a lower price band, right? But appreciate definitely that feedback in terms of that. And keep in mind, if you even want higher spec, we also do have Tough Gaming X670E boards. So you can even move up in the chipset, and that'll give you even more connectivity and more features depending on kind of what you're looking for, right? HDZ says, I would love to see a Tough AM5 motherboard in white. Yeah, generally we have been working and we're actually are looking to continue to expand our white offerings. Generally, Tough Gaming has not offered a white-based option. We have always pretty much offered a white within the Prime series, as well as within the ROG Strix. So we already do have AM5, where you have the B650-A, we have the X670-A, and then you also have the Prime X670 series. So there's 3 different ATX models that are all great boards that you can get in white. And personally, I really love the Prime, the X670 Pro. That's my personal favorite looking. I think that's one of the best looking whiteboards that we've ever done. I absolutely love that space theme. To me, if you want a white themed board, that is a fantastic option that we have within our lineup. I really love this that board right there. Let's go right ahead and see right there. Michael goes, yeah, no Q Connect. It's actually, yeah, the Q antenna design. That is a newer design feature that we just rolled out. So yes, correct. That is not something that is present right there. Okay. Okay. All right. Very, very cool. Let me go ahead and just see any other quick questions right there. If not, we'll go ahead and get over to our next product. So Chris S. lets us know, my mate has a tough board. I have the ROG Strix Z790-H gaming Wi-Fi myself, but I do like the tough gaming design. I would definitely agree. That's pretty sweet. So 904 Noah goes, hey, what's up, JJ? I got my UCDM on Wednesday and an absolutely incredible peak 4K OLED gaming. Hashtag OLED. Yeah, definitely the UCDM is absolutely a dream monitor. I'd love to be able to pick up a UCDM. It is an absolutely stunning display. If you guys are not aware, the UCDM, that's the PG32 UCDM. That's our latest flagship. That's a 4K QD OLED 240 hertz 32-inch gaming display. Absolutely stunning. So man, congrats. Hopefully you enjoyed that on this Friday and you enjoyed this weekend. So the big question is, what's the first game you're playing there? What are you playing on that display and enjoying that OLED experience, right? Introvert goes right here. He goes, I have two ROG Rapture GT AXE 16000 routers. Yep, that's the same router that I'm running. You got to love that quad band and also that 10G connectivity running in a wireless backhaul mesh. That is one of the best ways to actually run a quad band. Some people kind of wonder what's the point of going with a dual band or tri-band or quad band. Going to tri-band or quad band, when you connect two routers together through AI mesh, or actually any mesh, you utilize something that's called a backhaul. So you can either use what's called a wired backhaul, so using Ethernet ports, or you can use one of the wireless bands. The disadvantage for like a more entry dual band product is that when you use one of the bands, you're going to lose that. So if you have 2.4 and 5, it probably will use the 5 to talk to the two routers together, and you're going to only have 2.4 gigahertz. With tri-band, you would then at least keep a 2.4 and a 5 free, and probably the other 5 would be utilized. With then quad band, that's kind of really amazing because you can still keep 3 bands exposed and then have one of those bands connecting together. So a really great level of performance. So very cool, man. Thanks for being Team ROG and Team Rapture. So that is a sweet setup. So let's go over into our next product here. I think let's go ahead and let you guys pick. Actually, you know what? I think we'll do the monitor first, and then we're going to do the ROG Cetra. We'll dive into that, guys. So let's go ahead and go into our next item, which is going to be the ZenScreen MB166CR. This is actually a pretty cool product. I'm pretty excited about it because it's a great just addition that we have within our lineup here. So a lot of people, I think, have been they always like the idea of having like a portable display, but you know, we have a really big lineup right now, everything from 13 inches to our biggest monitor is 17, and then we have our kind of movable display series, which actually is 21 and 24 inches. But if you haven't made that upgrade to have like a secondary monitor that you can just throw in a bag or a backpack, and you don't want to break the bank, you want good color quality, you want it to be thin, light, have a solid warranty, I would definitely consider the MB166CR. I think it's a great option. So what is it going to be bringing to the table? This is really one of the lowest cost options that we have that has not only an IPS-based panel, it's going to be 15.6 inches. It'll carry the display and the power over USB-C. So it's great for the latest generation devices. So whether you got something like an Ally, a Steam Deck, a phone, a tablet, a laptop, and you want to be able to easily just display that signal out to it, bam, you're good to go. You're going to have that nice 1080p, 15.6 inches, 3-year warranty on it. And on top of that, it's got a really cool new kind of 360-degree kickstand design. So if you look right here, one of the cool things that you can see is you can actually rotate this and you can adjust it really easily. So if you want to go into portrait mode, if you want to go into landscape mode, heck, even if you want to hang it like on the monitor, like on a wall or like on the side of a cubicle or something like that, you actually have that little eyelet hole that you can do that for actually quick hanging purposes as well. So it's really nice, clean, compact, and it's really easy to adjust to be able to kind of give you that integrated kickstand experience. So I'm a big fan of this guy. Again, at its price point, very reasonable, does support automatic rotation. And as I noted with that USB-C, that's going to provide you the power, and it's also going to provide you the display signal in one cable. For those that are wondering, this is also fully compatible with, of course, other devices outside of PC. So you don't necessarily have to be just limited to use it with a PC. You can use it with OS X-based devices as well, and other types of USB-C DP-enabled connections. So got a lot of flexibility on that side. And some that might ask her, well, hey, I want something nicer. I want maybe higher resolution, higher refresh rate, a bigger screen. I want touch screen. I want wireless. We literally have every single one of those options. We have actually the largest portable monitor display stack in the industry. I think currently right now we have close to 30 models. So while I'm just showing you this one, we literally have almost every other type of monitor that you could probably think of. So if you want it, feel free to go ahead and check out our ZenScreen and our XG series. If you're looking at our gaming line, we break them up between our ZenScreen, which is our normal screens, and then we have our gaming line. Although some of the cool updates that we have for the ZenScreen also include now high refresh rate, where we have models that have 120 hertz and even 144 hertz. So it's not just the gaming series which has high refresh rate available to them. You can see again that very thin design, and you also have that protective sleeve. So again, if you're just throwing that in a bag or a backpack, you don't have to worry about scuffing or damaging the display. So overall, I think a nice addition for anybody that's looking to have a secondary display and have something that they can just improve their experience and improve productivity on the go with. So that is going to be the MB166CR. I'm going to go ahead and drop that link in the chat there for you guys as well, if anybody wants to check that one out. Give me 1 second right here. Jack is noting the ZenScreen looks great, but my ROG XG117 AHP is still running strong. That's a much nicer unit, the XG117 AHP. That's going to be a really, really nice unit. Of course, high refresh rate. That's a much nicer unit, but definitely that's a fantastic option. It's still one of our flagship-based portable displays, so I would definitely agree. For a lot of people that are looking for a big type of display, be able to kind of pair up with their laptops or be able to have something just that they can connect something like a Switch or a portable gaming unit to it on the go. Really, really nice. And 904 says he's taken part of Helldivers 2, so definitely the hot game right now that a lot of people are jumping into. They're definitely enjoying. So overall, pretty cool, man. Thanks for sharing that feedback in terms of how you're enjoying your PG32U CDM. All right, so we've got the motherboard out of the way and we've got our monitor out of the way. So let's get ready to go ahead and jump into, we're going to quickly touch on two quick basic displays, and then we're going to talk about the ROG Cetra. So let me go ahead and bring up these two displays. These are going to be both under our VZ series. So these are going to be general kind of purpose. You know, for I think a lot of you guys that are maybe a little bit more in the gamer crowd might not be something that you're looking for, but if you're just looking for a standard, you know, monitor, just be able to have for general productivity, maybe for a friend or family or something basic to set up in the office, something like that, this is going to be a great option. And again, keep in mind, all of our displays offer a 3-year warranty. So there are many other display manufacturers. Sometimes they kind of tier out their warranty. They have different warranty policy. For us, pretty much doesn't matter on an LCD, whether it's going to be a $110 LCD or it's a $1,000 LCD. All of them come with a 3-year warranty. So very consistent in that respect. So the first one is going to be the VZ the 24-inch base variant. So we'll take a look at that one. This one's going to come in $110. It is going to have a nice little update to some of the base features. The vast majority kind of lower cost monitors, you're going to be looking at only 60 hertz. This is actually 100 hertz. So again, not gaming focused, but it's going to give you a nice, just a little bit of a snappier kind of fluid desktop experience, which is cool. It is also going to be an IPS based display, and it is going to have nice thin bezels. So I am a fan of this unit. And I didn't note this on the MB monitor, but one thing you guys might not know is a lot of our products right now, especially pretty much all of our displays, we continue to have a relationship with Adobe. So you actually get a license or essentially like a subscription with Adobe Creative Cloud when you make a purchase for a supportive ASUS product. So for this one, you get actually 1 month of Adobe Creative Cloud for free. That's, and by itself, that can be like $50 plus, and that's assuming you actually have a current subscription. It can actually even be more with that if you're going from month to month. The MB166CR, that actually is 3 months. That's literally like the price of the monitor, but included for free. You literally get it. Same thing with that PG32U CDM. That actually comes right now also with a 3-month subscription of Adobe Creative Cloud, and it also comes with Ghost Runner 2 included. So don't sleep on sometimes some of these inclusions that give you actually even greater value. So you actually get a 1-month license that's included with this unit. In terms of your connectivity, it's going to be an HDMI connection on the unit. It does have tilt support and VESA mounting support as well. So pretty straightforward. So that is going to be the VZ24E EHF. We then have a slightly bigger version, which is going to be this guy, which will be the 27-inch. So 27-inch, 1080p, IPS, 100 hertz as well, and that thin bezel design, exactly the same, just coming in a little bit more. So either the 24-inch version at 110 or the 27-inch version at 140. So those are going to be the two displays there, and I will link that in the chat for you guys as well. And from here, we're going to get ready to talk about one of my favorite products, which is going to be the ROG Cetra wireless, which is going to be this guy right here. And I'd love to know, have you guys actually used our first generation version? We actually had really nice feedback for that, but there was definitely things that I think we could even make better, and we kind of pretty much improved every single aspect for the second generation version. So we're going to definitely be touching on those points. So let's get ready to bring that up. And let me see right here if we had any of that. Paul Flood goes, I love my ASUS board, but they do give out. So Paul, you're actually, not to kind of correct you, but you're actually, I would say, incorrect when you say they give too much voltage at stock. So there's a lot of users that actually are confused the way voltage frequency curves and how they're specific to each CPU. So if an example is right here, if I show you this CPU, so this is, I think this is a 13900. So here's one CPU and here's another CPU. These are both exactly the same CPUs, but the voltage frequency curve is different for each CPU. You can literally actually take like 10 CPUs that are all the same exact model, and the voltage frequency curve can be different from one to the other. And a lot of people don't understand this. You can literally have one that is that goes to, let's say, a maximum of like 1.38, and then another one which it's actually operating at 1.5, and that's doesn't seem like a huge difference, but it's notable enough that if you have somebody that shares results randomly in the community, that they could say, well, why is this board giving you more to this because I'm getting this? And it's actually the default. If you're running default in Intel parameters, the voltage frequency is actually defined in the factory. It's what's called fused. It's fused at the factory inside the CPU. And we just apply whatever the CPU is saying, hey, this is what Intel has defined for the actual CPU. Now, if you decide to overclock the system and you want to use like AIOC, or you manually tune it, or you go into other properties, then of course, yes, you'll see corresponding increases in voltage. But even within something like AIOC, the voltage frequency that we apply is very, very efficient. We use what's called an adaptive voltage, and a lot of people don't even understand the way that adaptive voltage works. But if you actually want us to see the sustained level of voltage over time, we actually have a hardware chip that's built on the motherboard that tracks the voltage for you. So you can actually see this. It's very difficult to know this in totality because you don't have something that you're monitoring your CPU voltage 24/7 to see when the CPU is idling and when the CPU frequency is going up, and the voltage is going up and the voltage is going down. So some people go like, oh, it says that it's giving me 1.5. Well, that's only happening in micro milliseconds for when the CPU frequency goes up. But the overall average, if you actually look at the monitoring tool, would show you maybe like 1.275 or 1.283. So it's actually much, much lower. We covered this actually a bit more, I think, in our AIOC live stream piece, as well as in some other content that we have in, I think, performance tuning. So if you're interested in checking that out, feel free to go ahead and check that out. Maybe it'll give you a little bit more information, a better understanding things along the lines like voltages and how they get applied and things along those lines. AK Mod, man, we recently featured an amazing build by the one, the only, one of the absolute best builders and modders in the game, AK Mod, man. Fantastic to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us here on the stream. All right. So let's go ahead and see right here. So somebody actually has one of the Cetras, so he notes there. Let's go ahead and just see right here. Spartan1 is also asking a question. Hi JJ, the PG32U CDM is out of stock. Can you tell us when it'll be available in the US again? It just continually keeps getting restocked. You just pretty much have to wait. I can't tell you really with a hard specificity because it depends on the e-tailer. Different e-tailers have different logistic timelines. Sometimes it can take them a couple of weeks to list something in. Sometimes it can be shorter than that. We're actively working to do stock refillment, but I would say a broader level of fulfillment would start to kind of hit towards the beginning of April. So I think once we get to the beginning of next month, you'll start to see broader, larger levels of availability. So right now it's a little bit tighter in terms of actually seeing quantity fulfillments, and it becomes a little bit harder for people where like they have to try to immediately pick it up, right? But I think as we probably get into early April, middle of April, you start to see more broad level of availability across our retailers. Also, I don't know if Amazon is actually even listed theirs yet. Amazon was, as we originally noted in our launch live stream, about 3 weeks behind, let's say like the ASUS store or some of the other channel partners that originally listed the PG32U CDM. So make sure to keep it tuned in that respect. So let's get ready to talk about the ROG Cetra TWS SpeedNOVA. Okay, so this is going to be our wireless, of course, in-ear in-ear buds, in-ear headphones, right? There's a lot of different terms that people will utilize when it comes to these units. So let's go ahead and take a look here at this model, and we'll talk a little bit about what we've done right here. And let me know in the chat right now, do you guys use something like headphones, right? Or do you guys use something like a TWS or like an in-ear? Now we also have the Cetra USB-C and also the Cetra wired. So we do have in-ear, smaller earbud based designs pretty much across all the type of options. So if you want to go 3.5 millimeter, if you want to go just natively USB-C, or if you want to go wireless, then you can do that. But there's some really cool things that we've done with this generation. And it's kind of similar to some of the cool things that we did with the Delta S wireless, where this model was also a dual mode design. So the Delta S wireless introduced both Bluetooth and USB-C low latency 2.4 gigahertz connectivity via a small little USB adapter. And so you'll see that, and that's the same thing that we have actually done here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. So it will be available in white and in black. We'll actually have it in both different colors. The launch is going to be on Monday for this guy, on the 18th. I would expect probably initial availability to be on our ASUS store, then probably Newegg, and then we'll follow up with the rest of our channel partners. So you can see right here, it will come included with this 2.4 gigahertz SpeedNOVA USB-C based adapter, and then it also is using a newer Bluetooth 5.3 specification support. The really cool thing is with the USB-C, of course, it's plug and play. Literally, you can just plug it straight into your phone. So you could go as simply as just like, here's my phone, plug in my USB-C, bam, no pairing, nothing. I'm immediately able to go ahead and take advantage of that low latency and high resolution. So if you care about having outstanding low latency with also still really great battery life, up to 36 hours even with the USB-C 2.4, very, very performant. But there's going to be a cool part with that USB-C and that 2.4 that I'm going to talk about in a little bit here. You'll also see an update in terms of the RGB lighting design. So in the prior generation, they didn't necessarily integrate this. Now we have a more comprehensive level of lighting. The lighting does also have a soft functionality as well. So here on the stem, you'll see that there's a light. After a little bit of usage, actually that light will change to a different color. And like take for instance, when you put it in the charging case, you'll actually see like it's red, and then it would go back to a different color, kind of indicating battery level and like that it's actually charging. So it does give you some clarity in that regard. Also on the lip right here of the charging case, there's an LED light to let you know that it's also charging. And for the storage of the USB-C adapter, it's very simple because you just use the same USB-C port that it utilizes to be able to go ahead and store that USB-C adapter. Okay. But let's go ahead and go into some of the really cool things that this unit has right here. So the first one is going to be that it is going to be dual mode connection, and it actually supports what's called hybrid multipoint. So the cool part is actually the 2.4 and the Bluetooth can be combined at the same time. So if you want to have the 2.4 gigahertz USB-C adapter connected to, say, like your ROG Ally, your Steam Deck, or your PC, but then have the Bluetooth connected to your phone, and let's say you got a call, or maybe even want to listen to music, you could actually do both simultaneously. So it can maintain connections of both at the same time. And you have actually controls to adjust this hybrid multipoint also within the Armoury Crate software, which there's an app not only for iOS, but for Android, but also for Windows. So in 3 different environments, you can actually control and tailor that. So again, Bluetooth and 2.4, and you can actually do 2.4 and Bluetooth at the same time. Plus, since this utilizes our latest generation SpeedNOVA chipset, it's outstanding in terms of the low latency, the stability, and also giving you really great battery life. Now, you're also going to have 24-bit 96 kilohertz support. So if you're taking advantage of like high resolution audio from like Tidal, HD Tracks, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, which offer high resolution support, you can actually support high resolution through Bluetooth. Bluetooth, I think, is going to be 24-bit up to 48 hertz. And then with the USB-C, you can go up to 24 to 96. It also uses DIRAC, which if some of you guys are not familiar with DIRAC, DIRAC is a really, really exciting technology that is designed for soundstage tuning. But this is very different than what I would say is kind of commonly looked at from like Dolby Atmos or DTS, which these are usually for like spatialization or for like surround. And some people have very kind of different opinions whether they like having like spatialization or surround. With DIRAC, actually what it's designed to do is to essentially tune the soundstage to be in better alignment with the design of the driver. So the driver is actually going to be the speaker, quote unquote. It's going to be the actual portion of the in-ear that has certain tendencies, whether it might be reverberation, or resonance, or certain characteristics, even the housing material. Essentially, it helps us to maximize the performance of the driver design. And I'll tell you from my personal perspective, I prefer listening to these units with DIRAC enabled. I think it helps to tighten up and even extend the low frequency a little bit more, give a little bit more presence to the mid-range, and even a little bit better detailing, but without making any one of those heavy. It's a really, really solid level of sound for music, movies, videos, or games. I've been very, very happy with it. And I would say if you found maybe you wanting to see a little bit more punch, a little bit more detail, a little bit more soundstage in the first version, you definitely will see that within this second generation version. Okay. Another cool update here is going to be the microphone technology. So very rare within gaming TWSs or even TWSs, but this actually has bone conduction and an AI noise canceling mic that's built in. So it's pretty sweet because bone conduction, if you're not aware, actually will essentially detect the vibration that you have when you're speaking. And we can map that along with the pickup from the microphone, and we can essentially create better intelligibility for your voice. So that, along with the AI noise canceling, where if you've got keyboards, a fan, dogs barking, different kinds of things, can help to filter that out and help to focus in the dialogue. And I've been pleasantly surprised really by the actual quality of the in-ear mics. So it's definitely a notable improvement. And you can also tailor a lot of things. You can adjust the compressor, you can adjust noise gate, perfect voice. A lot of options there to be able to tune that microphone even further depending on your your preference. Adaptive ANC. This unit does have adaptive ANC support, so it will automatically adjust the ANC level based on actually kind of some adjustments and some information that we register based on actually how it sits inside your ear canal. And you actually have 3 different levels. So by default, it has an auto mode, which also accounts for things like wind. As wind comes in, it can make an adjustment for that, but there's a low, medium, and high. Also, I would say sometimes some ANC will really degrade your audio experience. Like you don't want to listen to the music with ANC mode on. It tends to kind of really reduce it. I found really pleasantly that I was able to maintain a really solid level of audible playback in terms of kind of you're not really messing with too much the lower frequency range, the mid-range, and the higher end ranges with the ANC enabled. And again, you can tailor that with the low, medium, high, or just go with the auto mode and it'll automatically adjust it for you. So that is pretty sweet in that regard as well. And the battery life you can see up there, up to 46 hours. That's including, of course, the battery life there with the charging case. Now, one really cool thing is that the charging battery life performance is really, really sweet. You get 1 hour with literally 5 minutes of charging. It's about the fastest almost in the industry in terms of a super quick fast charge. So you literally just pop it in there, you're good to go. The case also supports wireless charging support, but yeah, 5 minutes for 1 hour in terms of that quick charge performance. So that's quite nice to see that as well. All right, so that is going to be the Cetra True Wireless. The last thing I want to show you guys here is going to be some of the cool software that we actually have in Windows that also will give you guys from the gaming side even a little bit more flexibility and control to be able to make adjustments. So let me go ahead and bring up some images right here. And let me quickly see any questions that came up there. Hey, Liquify Mods, man, fantastic to have you here. We got the one, they got only Jason Chu also joining us here as well. William is asking, when will the ROG Ergo monitor arm be available? Right now, I would say tentatively probably looking around April timeframe. 100%, of course, when we get ready to launch it, we'll be covering it here on the PCDIY live stream. So just watch out for that. We'll also have a featured post announcement in the PCDIY group, but right now I would be estimating probably April timeframe. Okay. Let me see right there. Okay, very cool. Let me see. Okay, so let me bring up the screenshots right here. And this shows you actually some of the software experience functionality you have available to you. So if you have it installed and you wanted to go ahead and make some adjustments in Windows. Now, again, if you're going to be using it with the mobile app on your, like I said, iOS enabled device or Android device, whether you use the USB-C or the Bluetooth, you'll have an extensive level of options inside the Armor Crate software suite. But inside Windows, if you go ahead and attach the USB-C adapter to essentially your PC, and you open up the AC software, then you're going to have quite a number of options that are available to you. So Here you can see that you can adjust the hybrid multi-point, so you can actually prioritize the different devices that you might use, whether it's your ROG phone, an iPhone, or like I said, an Android phone. You can go ahead and sequence how you want to be able to have the hybrid multi-point work. You can do firmware updating. You can set different profiles with different tunings. So if you want to have something for like music, you want to have something for Forza, you want to have something for Call of Duty, you could go ahead and tune that and get that situated. Go ahead and bring this up here. Next up, you then have under settings, you can adjust, of course, resolution, playback levels, also the mixer dashboard, which is pretty cool because, again, if you're going to have it simultaneously, like mix in different audio or different calls, things like that, you can adjust that. You have a full level of kind of readout to also, if you don't remember what the touch functionality is, we give you that information inside of Windows. A microphone, you can see you can adjust the noise gate and perfect voice levels. By default, they're turned off. You don't need to turn them on. I think they sound quite good without that, but but if you want to make the adjustments, you can turn them on and then you can make tweaks to them accordingly. And then under the full audio, you have a lot of options. You can enable that Dirac option. You have a multi-band EQ. You have some specialized sound presets that for gaming and for different types of multimedia content. Virtual surround, which I would normally recommend only for kind of like actual games. So if you want to have something that opens up kind of the sound stage, the tuning that we have is, I think, really solid for music, movies, videos, games, podcasts. It does really well across anything. So you don't need to do it, but if you want something that opens it up and gives you a little bit more kind of positional cueing, then you can go with the virtual surround. You can also customize reverb, bass boost, voice clarity, a compressor, which can be useful, like I said, for for sound tuning, and then from there, ANC customization. So if you want to be able to adjust your ANC, you can also do that. So that's all within the software suite. Again, if you attach that USB-C adapter. So the Cetra True Wireless will be available in black and white. I've shown you the white model right here, but let me just go ahead and bring up some quick images so you guys can check that out. And we'll look to wrap that up here. Let me quickly see if we have any questions that might have came up there. So again, here's the black model. Charging case comes included right there. You do get multiple tips all inside the box, so of course you can find the right fit that works best for you. And there's the white variant. So black and white, they're both the same exact price, $199, no difference in terms of the price point. There's the USB-C adapter. As I noted right there, also you get the little LED charging indicator. So that is going to be the ROG Cetra True Wireless SpeedNOVA Edition. All right. Pretty cool. Let me quickly see any questions that might have came up right there. DDA40X Bruce says, I love my 2 pairs of ROG Cetra, man. Thank you so much. Very, very cool. Appreciate your feedback right there. Johnny goes, SpeedNOVA, so fancy name. Yeah, that's just more so because they're incorporating the latest generation SpeedNOVA wireless chipset. So a lot of our new ROG peripherals all have that SpeedNOVA based wireless chipset because the SpeedNOVA chipset gives us a lot of key benefits. One, it gives us ultra low latency. So it's going to really be able to give you that sub 1 millisecond gaming grade latency, really good encoding efficiency and stability, and consistent performance, whether you're further away or close to the device, along with really, really good power efficiency. So that's the reason why, like when we talk about our keyboard or our mouse or these devices, when we say SpeedNOVA, it's because the SpeedNOVA is actually the chipset that is helping to facilitate a lot of the wireless-based performance for the product, right? Travis goes, is there a place for the dongle in the case? No. So the dongle, the wireless adapter, this is the way that it would be stored, right? So this ideally would be the way you would include it, is you'll see right there is just remove it from the back and then you just clip it in there, and that's the way you would do it. The inside of the case, it's quite compact and easy, so it's just like the first generation unit. When you go ahead and open it up, you would see that there's no internal storage bay, that you have that. Part of the reason why we did that is we felt to keep it kind of really nice and compact. Some of the units on the market which have like an internal bay, they start to get kind of a little bit wider and longer, and we've seen some feedback from users that they prefer keeping this a little bit more compact and streamlined as far as the overall design. But of course, if you guys have feedback, we'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Do you guys like that? Do you not like it? What would you like to see? But we're really excited about this new model. Again, we'll be launching on a Monday. Okay. All right, so that's going to be the ROG Cetra. All right, next up here, let's go ahead and get ready to round things out with the ExpertWiFi series. All right, so if you guys know, I've been talking about ExpertWiFi kind of off and on. With ExpertWiFi, actually, let me tweak that right there. And there we go. With ExpertWiFi, we have 3 new updates that we're going to have in terms of the ecosystem. We will have the EBA, the EBP, and the EBG. So what is that all about? Well, essentially with the EBA, this will be the power over Ethernet access point. So this will be the individual access point which you can use to further deploy your essentially your custom wireless network configuration. You'll see pretty much on the back of the unit right there, you've got the PoE in. You also have a dedicated power reset and mounting, essentially mounting support. So you can go ahead and deploy this pretty much wherever you'd like. So that will be the PoE access point. But in addition to that, we of course have 2 different types of switch solutions that will be complementary to that. They're technically actually hardware-based switch router designs. So one will of course be with this guy, which is going to be the EBG, this will be the wired router. So instead of like a traditional wireless router, which of course has an access point and wireless connectivity, this is only a wired router because of course your wireless would be facilitated through the EBA, which would be the wireless access point, right? So here you already have, of course, your SoC in there. You have your switch, you have your USB-C, and you're good to go. You also have management functionality that's available to you that you can go ahead and have more advanced level control. We had a little bit of a dedicated live stream previously, which talked about ExpertWiFi more in depth, where it talked about things like advanced VLAN management, and of course, a lot of really other cool features that we have in terms of how you can manage the product. No subscription costs compared to like some other companies, no specialized controllers that you have to kind of go with. So there is some really cool deployment options and benefits that we have within ExpertWiFi that if you're looking for that type of flexibility within your ecosystem, you definitely want to check out. Lastly, of course, is going to be supporting with the EBP, which with the EBP, let me go ahead and bring that one up. The EBP is of course going to be very kind of complementary to the EBA, which is that it's going to support of course power over Ethernet. So you still have that hardware switch based design, right? But you're also integrating the power over Ethernet to be able to supply the power to something like the access point. So we had already launched the EBR, which was of course our standard router. Then we had the EBM, which is going to be the ExpertWiFi mesh ecosystem. And that, again, remember, both of those support multiple nodes, up to 12 nodes you can actually have in those mesh network configurations if you want to do that, or you can have them in a singular configuration. We then now have the like I said, EBA, the EBP, and the EBG. So those are all now coming out. And let me go ahead and confirm the pricing for you for those respective models. And I'll also drop those in the chat as well. So let me go ahead and bring those up. So what do we have right here for the EBA? I believe should be, if I remember correctly, should be 130. So for the EBA, that's going to be that dual band, again, Wi-Fi 6 based access point. That's going to be 130. I'll drop that in the chat. And then the EBG, which is going to, of course, be your, let me bring this one up here. For the EBG right here, that's going to be, of course, your wired router. Okay. That is going to, I believe, be 90. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. That is going to be $90. And then lastly, we're going to have the EBP, which I think is going to be 80. Yes. So the EBP right here, your 5-port managed switch, right, with PoE, as opposed to the router, right? The router, which is a little bit more, that is going to be coming in at 80. So $10 price difference. So in total, EBA 130, EBP, EBP 80, and then the EBG 90. Okay. So those are going to be your 3 respective price points. And I guess I can share the other two units that we have within the ExpertWiFi ecosystem, and those should all be available pretty much next month, as I would say. We should have those available next month. So pretty much you'll finally be able to get the ExpertWiFi, the complete ecosystem, probably by about the middle of, I'd say, April. Okay, so Here we have the EBM, which, as I noted, right, is going to be the mesh deployment pack, right, which of course already has the AP and the router and the switch functionality, all those extra elements, including things like captive portal. Captive portal is really cool if you guys maybe have like a small business or you need that type of functionality. And then the EBR, which is 150. So that is going to round out the ExpertWiFi ecosystem. Let me quickly see right there. Bruce says, I use my ROG Cetras with my ASUS Chromebook. Yeah, so that's kind of one of the big differences, right? The Chromebook is going to be essentially Linux, right? So there's no Armoury Crate for Linux-based environment. We don't have any plans for that, but definitely you can share your feedback with our service and support team. And if we get maybe enough demand, then that's maybe something that we can evaluate. But I would not see that right now with any kind of pipeline plan that we have to be able to roll out support for, I'd say, Linux or Chrome. Now keep in mind that of course you can still update your firmware with things like on the mobile app. If you have the wireless version, you can still use an Android and an iOS based device to be able to have kind of additional control functionality. But for the advanced Armoury Crate software suite that give you all those different options, that's only going to be in Windows for now. If we probably offered something, I think probably even after that would probably maybe OS X first before we would probably do something like Chromebook. But that's never to say that it's off the table. Just like I said, there's a lot of other factors, and it comes down to balancing kind of the number of users that are really asking for that functionality and then developing the software and everything that comes along with that, right? So, but appreciate that feedback, and thanks for letting me know that that's something that you'd like to see. I appreciate that. Okay. So that is going to take care of the 3 ExpertWiFi models. So overall, some very nice updates that we have in relation to that. So again, as a recap there, we had those 2 VC series monitors, the ZenScreen series monitor, the ROG Cetra TWS SpeedNOVA base edition, and then the Tough Gaming B650-E Wi-Fi based board, and then of course our ExpertWiFi editions. So I guess from here, let's get ready to maybe do a little bit of a PCDIY builder's spotlight. I didn't prime these ahead of time, so we're going to see what we have coming up. I think about the only one for sure that we have is going to be the one from Stuart Tonks, which is in our featured, of course, image right there. So give me 1 second to go ahead and bring this up, and we'll get this covered. So give me 1 second right here, and we will jump into this. And I don't think I had a submission form yet from Stuart here on this one, but give me 1 sec here. All right, here we go. And let's go ahead and make a note here. So this is going to be for our PCDIY Builder Spotlight, guys. As always, if you guys are interested in submitting your builds for the PCDIY Builder Spotlight, all you need to do is essentially just be part of our PCDIY group, submit your submission form. Submission form essentially asks for a couple of details and upload some images for your system, and that allows us to go ahead and then be able to share your systems here on the stream. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's air-cooled, water-cooled, mini ITX, ATX, it doesn't matter whether you built it right now or you built it 4 years ago. We'd love to feature actually all types of builds here on the system. Really, the main requirement is just going to be that it does need to be an ASUS powered system to be able to go ahead and show that off. So let's get ready to go ahead and check out this build over from Stuart. So definitely, of course, a friend of the stream and a friend of ASUS. He does amazing work, and if you guys aren't checking him out, then you definitely want to do that. I believe this build is with the formula-based motherboard, if correct. So let's go ahead and take a look at it right here. And then I believe it's also using Singularity Computers chassis here. So let's go ahead and take a look here. And we've got, of course, some amazing video from Stuart as well. So right off the bat, you can definitely see this is a huge undertaking. One of the big challenges, of course, when you put together a monster system like this, a really large system, is even figuring out how you're going to utilize all of that space. It's kind of deceptive in some ways because you think you have all this space, but the reality is that it really can actually challenge a builder. In the same way that building something really small can be challenging, something pretty big can be challenging because you have to kind of figure out how you're going to use that space. Because if you don't use that space, it can seem empty and it can seem kind of weird. So it's a real balance of trying to figure out what you want to lay out, where you want to kind of prioritize and have certain things kind of flow and provide a level of visibility or maybe pull back on the visibility. And so here we can see that we have a really beautiful color scheme that he's gone with. Now at the core here, This was going to be to highlight, of course, the 14900KS, so that's the latest generation CPU from Intel. And then he paired that up with the Maximus Z790 formula. So that's, of course, our white update to the formula series, an absolutely stunning board. So makes sense to be able to carry that white theme throughout, from not only the board to the block to, of course, elements of the chassis. I love kind of this softer, almost teal color that complements against the white. It really gives it a nice kind of pop and contrast. Gives you a little bit of what's called color blocking, which makes that other color kind of feel a little bit more pronounced. So I'm really a big vibe of that. And then we've got the, of course, GPU in a vertical mount with a really cool, actually, approach in terms of the block. So there's some cool things here. You can actually see that we've got a little bit of that riser. You have the riser right there, which helps to just kind of prop it up and give you a little bit more pronounced visibility. Then you got your right angle adapter there for the actual power cable, which has also even been done in white. Looks quite nice. Stuart is also a big fan of integrating a lot of times these kind of subtle inlet based displays, and you can also see that right here. We've got a display kind of showing off all that information, and then some really nice cool runs. He did actually utilize the integrated VRM water cooling block that is on the formula. Now, you don't have to. The formula has a block design which can be run either actively or passively, so it can be used in either configuration, but he decided to integrate into it. So we can see that we've got the CPU block then feeding in here, right, and then that's going into the rest of the totality of the loop and the rest of the cooling system. And overall, looks absolutely stunning. I really like that kind of almost the tubing is getting hidden behind kind of certain portions right here. You don't even really see much fans, which that's also kind of one of the interesting pieces within this type of build. A lot of times in a larger build, you'll very much really see a lot of the fans that are in the system, and here you only see a couple of the fans. But I don't mind that. I love kind of just seeing this large kind of more monolithic geometric type of design present that's on the chassis, along with just the highlights of kind of those core items that you have there. So the second image that we have here is going to be, I believe, kind of the full setup vibe. Here showing off a really great aesthetic that we have within kind of the ROG ecosystem as well. So we've got the actually ROG Delta headset, which is in white. The formula, an XG series monitor, which is also in white. I think this is the ROG Azoth, which is in white. Our Moonstone, which is a white tempered glass, actually gaming surface, really nice for smooth, really precise tracking, and it looks fantastic. And then the ROG Harp, which is our symmetrical ultralight flagship gaming mouse, which, little insight for you guys, it will actually get an update with our new polling rate booster to support 4K and 8K. So if you're looking to even get a higher level of performance, this would be like the perfect system where you would want 4K and 8K polling, because ideally, even if you go to 4K polling, you want a minimum of a 240 hertz refresh rate. So you want a high speed refresh rate monitor like this XG series monitor that you have here. So this is an awesome combination, killer setup and configuration. I think we've got a little bit of video footage, so let's go ahead and check out his video footage for the build right here. And if you guys are not subscribed, then I would recommend that you make sure and subscribe. So let's go ahead and bring up the video right here. I'll drop the link in the chat right there as well. So let's go ahead and take a look right here. So we can see, yeah, this is where he's got, of course, a beautiful build, right? Singularity computers right here. It's really cool. It's actually got all the little individual pieces that are kind of in there, separated out. That's actually a pretty cool design. And then you kind of bring it all together. You can, of course, see the beautiful distro integration right there, which is quite nice. Really kind of bold and clean, and how it's all coming together. Of course, that integrated, of course, connectivity right there with all your fan headers. Now, this is definitely expensive, but you can see, of course, with the level of kind of integration and kind of how it all comes together, part of the reason why you're looking at such an expensive type of product and the kind of functionality and the features that it is affording you, right? Pretty cool right here that you also have access to the rear cutout if you wanted to have something that was going to be more streamlined. But you also actually see all those connections internally right there, which is pretty nice, right? I would have been interesting. I mean, of course, it comes with all the screws, but I love countersunk screws. I'm almost like interested to be seeing like what would have been like if you would have had like countersunk different kind of screws, right? So we can see we've got the formula right there, looking fantastic. Of course, you've got, of course, your caps right there. If you weren't going to do the custom water cooling on the board, the 14900KS kind of coming in there. Look at those super thick rads. Absolutely beastly rads, right? just super thick. Of course, it makes sense that you would also go with the larger base fans, something like here, what he's doing with the I think these are the T30s from Fantex, because of course with such a thick radiator, you want to make sure that you have a sufficient static pressure performance to really be able to ensure that you're effectively utilizing that, because you don't want to have underpowered fans. A lot of the time, actually, ARGB fans are going to be underperforming compared to traditional fans. I'm a huge fan of these Crass, these Clev Crass dims. I think they look really good. I really like the way those look. So, and then we've got, of course, your fill shot and then a little bit of footage. So let's go ahead and just take a look there, but we'll see what some feedback is from some people right here. Cowboy goes, that's the way to spend $20,000, right? We then have Dustin asking some feedback. Can you disable built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth? Yeah, if you're talking from like a motherboard perspective, yeah, you can generally go into the UEFI BIOS and disable that. You can also disable it within your device manager if you don't want to go into your UEFI BIOS. I don't know why I would disable the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, but if you wanted to, yes, you can, right? Steven, thanks for your feedback. If you have something specific you'd love to share, feel free to go ahead and send it over to PCDIY@asus.com and our support team so we can better understand what, I guess, your concerns are and whatever it is that you found that you've had an issue with. I'd love to hear that feedback. See any other thoughts right there that we syncs? We got right there Michael going the white Destro Empire beautiful. I definitely think that is going to be pretty sweet. Yes, for sure. So overall, beautiful build from Stuart, right? So again, let me go ahead and throw this actually up here. This is actually going to, let me throw this right here. So again, guys, this is going to be from Stuart Tonks GGF. It's the 14900 KS base build. I think it turned out absolutely fantastic. It kind of gets also further tied in with the rest of those items. Of course, he did an amazing job there with that Spectre 4, right, with the Evium chassis right there, right, and just the overall execution, top notch. You would expect nothing less from Stuart, a masterclass builder in his own right. Always helps to bring in attention to detail, thematic execution. Everything is on point. So that seriously gets a real big thumbs up from me. You know, so I guess the big question would be, is this your cup of tea? Is this something you would love to be running on your desktop, right? And look at that. He even threw in some scores. He threw in some performance numbers, right? Be pretty interesting if, so he goes here, power limits removed and score. Oh, and then he added even the ASUS AIOC. That's pretty cool. Actually, I love that he threw those numbers in there. So that's actually pretty cool. So let's actually see what the numbers look like. So one of the cool things, if you're not aware with ASUS AIOC, the way the technology works is we look at actually the voltage frequency curve of the CPU, and then you look at your CPU's cooling performance, and then we increase your clock frequency based on essentially the kind of the voltage frequency curve information that we're reading out, as well as actually the system's cooling performance. And you can see you got a nice bump up there resonant to your actual performance. And in a lot of ways, really the best benefit is actually going to be under gaming workloads as opposed to synthetic workloads. But you can definitely see that there's notable improvements that are present here within the synthetic benchmarks that he have. But let me go ahead and bring up here actually a little bit of comparison if you're kind of wondering frequency to frequency, what it would look like if you were to run something like the ASUS AIOC. But man, Stuart, you absolutely killed it. Of course, let's go ahead and give Stuart a thumbs up right here. So we're going to throw Stuart a thumbs up. Fantastic build. And again, if you guys are not subscribed, make sure to go ahead and check it out. Let's also go ahead and drop that guy in the chat, and you guys can check that guy out there. All right, and let me go ahead and see. I think I have some values here. And of course, probably some of you guys remember that I've covered this in a prior live stream. So for some of you, it might not be information that you kind of maybe are interested in. But for some of you that are haven't, let's go ahead and just show you kind of what it can look like here. So give me 1 second. And go ahead and bring this up. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so let's take a look here. So these are going to be essentially your two values that you have. So this is essentially your ASUS AIOC. This is actually on a 1400K, so not on a KS, but it's just showing you in terms of kind of the results right here, if you were kind of wondering. So this is going to be your stock performance on your CPU. And here would be your kind of ASUS AIOC results. So again, the cool thing here is this is specific to your CPU and then specific to your cooler as well. And keep in mind, you can actually make a lot of adjustments. You can set a voltage cap if you wanted to. You can set a temperature target if you wanted to. You actually have an optimism slider to either be more aggressive or to be less aggressive. So you have a lot of granularity and control. So default, we can see right here is at 1 core 60 and then 60, right? And then we can see pretty much 3 through 8 is going to be 57. And then we can see our P cores are going to be at 44. If we then go ahead and look at our adjustment value, we can see that we moved over to 200 megahertz uplift, which is a nice little bump right there on 1 core. Another 200 megahertz uplift on 2 cores. On 3 cores, a nice big jump up right there where we're seeing 500 megahertz uplift on 3 cores. And really in that 1 to 4 core range is quite important because that's where a lot of games reside, is then that 1 to 4 core range. So we can see 57 to 62. Then we've got on 4 cores right there, 57 to 61. So nice uplift there. And then we can see 5, again, 57 to 61. And then on the last 3, 57 to 59. So some nice, actually, overclocking right there. And this was, I believe, actually only on the Tough Gaming LC3660. So that's actually our standard kind of just 360 AIO cooler. It's not even our flagship cooler that we have there. And then also keep in mind that your E-cores were also improved upon. So you also saw an increase in the E-core. And critically, the other really cool part to all of that is going to be that the ASUS AIOC leverages an adaptive voltage. So that means that so when the system is idling, voltage and frequency come down, and you're only seeing that increase in frequency and also seeing that supplemental increase in voltage when you're going to the actual higher OC-centric values. So overall, pretty cool addition. So props to Stuart. Thanks for showing actually those inclusion of those ASUS AIOC results, man. You killed it with another amazing build. Oh, hey, fantastic, man. Thanks for the coverage, man. So let me know, Stuart, what do you think about working with that chassis? It was absolutely a fantastic chassis. I thought the bundling was really cool in terms of how they laid out all the ports and that integration with, of course, all the connectivity on the inside of the panel. It's pretty cool in terms of actually kind of simplifying, I think, a lot of the connections you need to make, right? So pretty overall cool. But guys, check out that video that he has right there. Of course, you can check out his socials, of course, for more amazing builds and a lot of great inspiration right there, right? So thumbs up from Michael. Fantastic right there. Let's go ahead and see. We got a quick question right here. Is Dustin's going, what's a budget build CPU RAM motherboard run lately? I would unbox, build, benchmark, and review if I had some financial help from MSI. This is an ASUS stream, but hey, was ranked top 1 Counter-Strike, so I can provide some real gameplay scenario. As far as like a budget build recommendation, you know, it really comes down to, I think, defining 3 things. One is going to be considering what's the resolution you want to play at, what's the game that you want to play, and then what's the refresh rate that you want to target. Because think about it from the perspective of like 1440p at 240 hertz is very different than 1080p at 180 hertz, right? And that's going to define really what makes the most sense for you from a CPU perspective alongside from like a GPU perspective, right? But I think from like a price to performance, I think one, probably something like I showed here earlier with the Tough Gaming B650, I think is a fantastic value prop. If you really wanted to be aggressive on your budget and you kind of didn't have a concern about having no kind of upgrade path, AM4 is still a great option. You could pick up like one of our Tough Gaming B550 motherboards, get, of course, an AM4 X3D series CPU, and then drop in something, you know, like a, you know, a 4060 Ti or, you know, 4070 Super. 4070 Super, I think that would be a great choice. That really would hit you at a great kind of performance proposition for high refresh rate 1080p gaming, even high refresh rate 1440p gaming, especially for a lot of esports centric titles. And then you kind of just pair that in with a kind of sensible rest of kind of hardware. I would probably only go with like a tower heatsink, save your money, don't even need to go with an AIO cooler. And then just maybe something like a cool, clean, compact chassis, maybe something like our AP201. AP201 right here. It's one of my favorite chassis that we have. Going also with a more basic MicroTX board would also save you a little bit of money there. But do I have my AP201 here? Yeah. This is the AP201. And we have it in both. We have it in white and we have it in black. But this would probably what I go with. Go with like something like that. Like I said, that dual 4070 Super. You can go like maybe AM4, AM5. Although there's a lot of really great promos right now on a lot of the Intel, you know, like 12600. 13600 series CPUs and something like a B650 motherboard. And with at least that, you can also get easily upgrade into DDR5 as well and have even a higher specification support. And for some game scenarios, that could also provide very good performance. So those would be my recommendations for like a sweet spot configuration. Okay, so hope that overall helps you right there. All right, I think we've got probably one more PC DIY Builder Spotlight that we can jump into. So let me go ahead and take a look here at my folder from last week and see who we've got here that we can touch on. So give me 1 second, guys, and see who we can touch on. Okay. Let's see here. All right, let's go ahead and do, I think here, let's do this one. This is from David. This was an update, Hell 2.0. And I think we had one question that kind of came up right there. Which is the best ASUS motherboard for 14900K overclocked with 8000 memory, coming in from JY? So really the performance difference between something like an ROG Strix Z790-E or -F, or even like a Tough Gaming Z790 Pro or a Maximus Hero is going to be effectively the same. If you put a KS in any one of those, the overall stability, the reliability, and the performance is going to be pretty much identical. You're not really going to see a large difference. The ROG board might have a little bit of subtle tuning, so from a performance perspective, if you like run benchmarks, you might see a little bit of an edge, but effectively it's the same. Now, the big question that you're introducing, which makes it a lot more complicated, is you're seeing memory. Keep in mind, you could buy 20 14900Ks and have not one of them be a good enough CPU to be able to effectively run an 8000 MT memory divider. You're strongly have to account for silicon memory variants. I can tell you for all my CPUs, I've only had one that has been able to actually be able to hold an 8000 MT memory divider, and it's not a limitation just on the board's part. It's squarely a limitation you have to account for in the quality of the IMC. So unless you're going to spend the money or you have a pre-vet where you know that CPU's been already pre-verified to be able to run 8000 MT, don't make the assumption, regardless of the motherboard that you buy and the memory that you buy, that you're going to hit 8000 MT. Statistically, you will not hit it. It's going to be almost a rarity for you to be able to achieve that with a high level of stability or high level of guarantee. On 14th gen series CPUs, the vast majority of CPUs can comfortably hit 7,000. A pretty good amount can hit 72 up to about 7,600. After that, you start to definitely see a trail off. Most of the 4DIMM boards can generally hit up to around 74 to 7,600 with pretty good level of likelihood of success. But if you really want to target that 76, 78, 8,000 MT, you only have two options. It's either going to be, you're going to look at the Z790-I, which is going to be mini ITX, or you're going to take a look at the Apex. That's the two options. So if you want that ultra high DDR5 overclocking, then you're going to need to look at a 2DIMM enabled board. So either the -I or the Apex Encore. So hopefully that answers your question right there. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look here at David's build. This is going to be another water-cooled build. So this is going to be with the actual Hyperion. Pretty sweet right here. So it's definitely going with that kind of classic red and black color scheme. I'm always a big fan of, I think, red and black. It just has a classic kind of look to it. And of course, very much ROG in terms of kind of the history of what ROG has had in terms of kind of a color identity. Although you don't see any fixed generally red on any of our ROG components. Although, of course, with the new 40 series, we did do a little bit of a throwback to have kind of like a kind of pink, red, and then blue kind of purple kind of vibe on the front shroud of that card, right? But for the most part, we don't have any fixed red like we had in years past, right? Definitely heavy use of parallel lines with the distro integration right there. I'm usually not always the biggest fan of it. This is pretty cool and definitely takes a great amount of space in there in terms of just kind of giving you a nice layout and a good balance right here. The actual runs look nice and smooth and clean and consistent, so nicely done on that side. So pretty cool. The little display is an interesting touch right there. I think it does break apart a little bit from the rest of the color motif, but definitely I think it overall works. And then he's even gone ahead and thrown in and synchronized his ROG Thor. So definitely through and through, this is definitely a ROG based build with the Hyperion, of course the ROG board, the Thor, right, all kind of tying everything together. As we look in right here, let's see, I like this. He went ahead and went with a little bit of customization to, of course, the OLED live dash display, which is pretty nice right there. Cool thing is that also with this board, even though you are going to have more restriction just by going with the hardline loop and being able to get into all your slots, you do at least have the DIM.2 add-in module, which I still think would be somewhat accessible if you want to be able to easily add or replace an M.2 SSD. You could just bracket that. You could essentially pop that out, make your drive adjustment, and pop that back in, versus traditionally on most boards when you go with this type of a hardline loop, it would be a really big challenge, right? Because you would fundamentally have to drain the loop, break it out, get to the onboard of the board, make those adjustments, and then put everything back in. So one of the reasons why generally for my personal builds, I don't do hardline. Or if I do hardline, I'll only hardline just the CPU loop and I won't do my GPU. But it's all about preference, all about aesthetics, all about kind of what you prefer in terms of the look and feel. And definitely it came out quite nice in terms of the overall look and feel. I'm digging also interesting. What do you guys think? Do you like the red vibe or do you like the red and the white? The red and the white is actually pretty nice because it creates more again of that kind of color blocking effect where you get the contrast. I actually really like the vibe of being able to have the white here, really seeing with clarity essentially the red, right? In terms of the red coolant. And then from there, you've got the white here on the board, white on the fans, and even then the white here. And then you've got the red and you've got black. So you actually have like a little bit of like a three-tone color scheme with the red, the black, and the white. I dig that. I think I might even dig it more than the red, but red is always a really tough color to photograph. So personally, I think it always even looks better in real life. So, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to saying that red version is really, really nice. I've had definitely red as being a color scheme that I've used for a long time too. I usually kind of sometimes like a longer delay breathing pattern as opposed to just a fixed red. I find that kind of fits for me on my vibe, and I've done that with my personal build before, but I like both color schemes. I think they both look fantastic, and definitely David had a really nice, just clean layout, nice attention to detail, looks good. Might have maybe said maybe for the cable combs, I don't mind the black cable combs, but part of me maybe goes maybe what it would have been like to maybe have maybe some red cable combs. I think maybe interesting. I don't know if it would have worked, but maybe, not sure yet. But overall, fantastic. And then you can see we go out to his, of course, full build and setup. I love that he's also got the ROG IKEA panels. So you can actually pick these ROG panels up at IKEA if you guys have not known. You have that. He's got his Falchion there. He's got his ROG Strix keyboard right there. He's got the little case there for, of course, another ROG mouse with, I think, the the Spatha. His Hyperion right there. It's an awesome setup, man. It's very cool, man. Other overall effect. And take a look right here at your submission form. So give me a second. Let me go ahead and bring up the submission form. And we'll bring this up here. So submission form wise, let's see what David's got for us here. And let me see if there's any other kind of questions that came up. Zero goes, if you have an issue that you think is firmware related, you should open a service and support case with the service and support team or provide a clear documentation on kind of the debug process. When it comes to displays, it can be pretty tricky to sometimes kind of actually correctly debug and analyze what people's feedback is. Sometimes some people will report something as an issue and it's not actually an issue. It's maybe another issue that they have relating to software. It could be actually a game anomaly bug. It could be even there maybe lack of understanding on how maybe like tone mapping works, where sometimes people think like they don't understand the difference between wide gamut, or even things like there's people that report experiences with things like flicker in terms of like an OLED display and not realize that there's certain operating characteristics of an OLED display which are quite different than an LCD display, and they assume that it has to be like a firmware bug as opposed to inherent to the kind of the technology. So there's a lot of factors in there. What I always recommend is that if you feel that there's an issue in that you want us to look into, we may already be looking into it. So one, you should open up a service support ticket with our service team, so then that way it can be tracked and accordingly they can work with you to collect information. But I think the really important thing is you have to have a really clear documented structure that you can duplicate consistently, right? So that you can provide to our team and say, hey, this is exactly what I ran into. This is how I went about it. This is what I've tried, and then go through these permutations so that it's easy for our team to attempt to try to duplicate on our end to see that we can actually go through. Because ultimately, if we can't duplicate it, we can't attempt to resolve the issue, or it could become really, really lengthy to try to go through all these permutations to probably find this potential issue that you're experiencing. So documentation and duplication is really, really paramount in that. But Zero, thanks for your feedback. Like I said, I would recommend that you just open up a services support case, and then that way we can try to look into whatever it is your issue might be, and hopefully we can help to resolve it. I can tell you on my side, on the PR side, I've worked with quite a number of media that have already reviewed that display, and we haven't had any feedback on issues or reports from them during their testing over the last month and a half. It's been very positive. But, there are always things that, we can continue to kind of tweak and improve upon. And of course, the unit does have firmware updating functionality, so we can definitely look into that. So yeah, just document that, send that over to our team so that we can look more closely into that and hopefully help to and make improvements where we can. So Ryan, that's the same feedback I noted for Zero. I don't know what your question is because it doesn't really ask anything with concreteness. The only planned firmware update that we have right now immediately that we would be looking to release at a later date is going to be for Dolby Vision support, which we've already noted is probably going to be coming later in early Q2 timeframe. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the submission form for David. So we've got right here, this is going to be his Hell Build 2.0. It's an update from his original Hell Build. So Hell Build 2.0 Diablo. 3 words used to describe his build is Diablo meets ASUS. I think even more would be Diablo meets ROG or ROG ASUS. Does the build have a name? It's Hell Build 2.0. In terms of the core hardware, what is he rocking here? He's got a Ryzen 9 7900X3D, an ROG Crosshair X670E Extreme. He's running 48 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, which I think is the optimal kind of configuration in a 2 DIMM board with DDR5. So he's hitting that sweet spot to be able to get, good scaling, best tuning performance, also be able to kind of tune his timings more effectively than going with a 4 DIMM board where some people might favor that for aesthetics. Then he's got an ROG Strix 4090 OC. He's got a 1600 watt Thor, absolutely beastly, definitely a lot more than he needs. Personally for me, I think I would have been fine with like a 1200 watt or even 1000 watt, but definitely there's no issues with that. He's going to have more than enough power than he's ever going to need. Then that's all inside the ROG Hyperion, the GR701 chassis. He's got a 4 terabyte PCI NVMe Gen 5 M.2 SSD in there, and then 16 terabytes of additional storage in there. So he's got 2 by 8 terabyte RAID 0 configurations in terms of Rocket Cube Floor drives. Then he's pretty much using a lot of Optimus. So he's got Optimus for the AM5 block and then Optimus for the actual GPU block. I'm a big fan. I'm actually also running Optimus blocks on that side. He's then got the Granzon Hyperion pump and Granzon 360 millimeter radiator and Granzon fittings. 14 millimeter hard tubing, acrylic tubing is what he's using. Vardar X3M base fans, and then for the coolant, it's going to be CryoFuel Blood Red. Then he's got custom cables that he's using from Cable Mods in terms of the mod mesh. He's then running 2 PG27 AQDM, so that's going to be our 1440p OLED 240 hertz monitor, so that's absolutely fantastic. Really sweet spot for a gaming experience. So dual OLED, that's really awesome. That's why probably those blacks just look so good, of course, because you got OLED is there. And then he's got the ROG Throne there, the ROG Azoth, the ROG Chakram X, and the Harp Ace, and the Spotlight XY. He's got 3 different ROG mics. Scabbard for his desk mat, and then he's also got the ROG Cosmic Mat, which is actually our cool kind of chair mat that you can put underneath for your chair. Budget for the build, he does an overall, it's going to be a pretty pricey build if you add everything up. I don't know, this is easily upwards of over, $5,000-$6,000. What is he more proud of the build is the layout. Is there anything you would change about the build? Nothing, and I would agree. I don't think I would change anything about that. It's a super nice high-end build, really nicely laid out, clean, well balanced, love the color scheme, and it's going to be amazing for performance. I mean, there's no reason why you would want to change anything. How long did it take together to put the system? A couple of months. And what does he do? Predominantly system is for gaming. Diablo 4, some Cyberpunk, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Hogwarts Legacy, etc. And then his overall kind of favorite product within that is actually he's a huge fan of the Hyperion, man. So thanks so much, David, for giving us love there. And man, thank you for being such a longtime member of the community and for being Team ROG, man. Very, very cool build. So overall, pretty sweet. So not sure what you mean, Cowboy, in terms of what your question is, right? But okay, let me see right there. Eric's is asking a question. This might be a bit random, but what DisplayPort HDMI cables do you use? There are so many brands to choose from Amazon that I can't design. When will ASUS make some ROG cables? So I will make a point that generally we always recommend that you use ideally the cable that comes included with your display, unless you specifically need a longer display, because we do test those to meet the criteria for EDID compliance and handshaking and kind of bandwidth. I don't recommend that you just change that out. Usually we always recommend try to test everything out first with those cables before you make a transition. My recommendation is if you do look for aftermarket cables, look to see if they are ideally DisplayPort certified if you're using a DP cable. Not all cables meet DisplayPort certification. That's a good kind of initial benchmark to feel pretty confident in that they meet the operating criteria and the stability and the performance. Do keep in mind that there is a lot of factors that come in with cables that can sometimes influence them, from sometimes EMI to sometimes pickup sensitivity on where they might be layered or making kind of connections with other type of items that sometimes see a factor. Also even fitment, sometimes you can have oxidation on sometimes like ports and connections. So depending on older type of items, sometimes you might want to get something like some deox, spray that on connectors and things like that. That can actually sometimes improve connection or dropout issues. Different little anomalies and things like that can happen. But in terms of a general recommendation, I would at least check that the cable hopefully is listed under the displays for certification table. And you can go to their website to get a database of a lot of the cables that meet that specific validation. So hopefully that answers your question there. All right, guys. So that's going to pretty much wrap up our stream for today, man. Thank you guys so much. I think next week we'll probably have a bit more to help to round out the last number of PCDIY Builder Spotlights that we haven't completed, that we have there in the bank. So we'll probably look to maybe do like 6, 7, maybe 8 builds. So make sure to take advantage of it if you can. And also make sure, if you're not, join our PCDIY group. Great community. I would love to be able to see your guys' builds, your questions, your comments, your feedback, whatever it might be when it comes to some hardware there. So thank you guys for joining us this stream. Have a great Friday night. Best of luck with your builds, and have a great Saturday and Sunday. So with that, guys, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day. Best of luck with your builds.